The day before yesterday, I have told you some portions of the topic of President of India. At that day, I have told you about the terms and conditions from the office of President of India. And also I have told you about the eligibility criteria to become the President of India. Apart from that, I have told you something too. Now I am going to tell you about who can participate in the elections of president, as well as how the president elections, how the voting count of President of India has been done, and how any contestant win the elections of president. So let's see about that. Okay. See students, Article 52 clearly says that, listen my words clearly, okay, please be attentive. Article 52 of the Constitution of India clearly says that there shall be a President of India. Fine. But Article 54 tells about that who can participate in the elections of India, and also tells that how President of India got elected. So Article 54 tells that who can participate in elections of President of India. So at that day I have also told about it, but I am just repeating it so you can get the whole things. Okay. So see, all the members of Lok Sabha plus all the members of Rajya Sabha will participate in the elections of President of India. Apart from it, even all the MLAs of Legislative Assembly. Okay, here is MPs. All the MPs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha plus all the MLAs of all the states of India. Okay. Apart from both those points, one important point is that Legislative Assembly of Delhi and Puducherry. If you don't know, just remember the fact that Delhi, the UT of Delhi and Puducherry also have Legislative Assembly. Somehow they have the status of partial statehood too, not a full statehood. Okay, but somehow both of the Union territories have a partial statehood. That is why both of them have got the status of Legislative Assembly. So all the MLAs of both these legislative assemblies, that is Delhi and Puducherry, will also participate in the elections of President of India. So combining all the facts and figures, you can easily get that MPs of Parliament of India plus MLAs of all the respective states of India. Apart from both those sections, MLAs of legislative assemblies of Delhi and Puducherry, the Union territories of Delhi and Puducherry, all these candidates will participate in the elections of President of India. So now I think this point is clear to all of you. So now I am going in detail about how the voting count has been done in the election of President of India, how any contestant win the election of President of India. What is Electoral College? So that is the Electoral College. Electoral College consists of all these points. President of India is chosen by Electoral College, that is prepared by Election Commission of India. I have already told you. In that Electoral College, some part consists, that is MPs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha plus MLAs of all the state plus MLAs of Union territories of Delhi and Puducherry. All these points consist and make a Electoral College, that is prepared by Election Commission of India. So now I am going to tell about the whole procedures. Okay, be extra attentive today, because if you will misguide and mismatch half a second you will lose the point what I want to say you. But I am making sure I will repeat all the points. Okay, only one time. If you want to see that part again, you can resume the whole video again. Fine. So let's see about the election procedure of President of India and the final outcome of that election. Let's see. One thing, remember that election of President of India is actually not that kind of election by which any MLAs or even any MPs win the election. That is totally different from the election of President. So let's see. Suppose any particular state of India, I will take in the initial phase, I am here mentioning that I will take the simple number of figures that is not real, but since I have to clear all your doubts, so I want to take the simple figures, simple numbers, so you will easily get that part. Okay, see, if any particular state of India has population of 1 crore, okay, 1 crore population, okay, fine, 1 crore population, if any particular state, let's take the name, suppose UP has population of 1 crore. It's just an assumption, I have already told you. So let's remember another fact that the population count has been done for the election of President of India on the basis of census of 1971, not the census of 2011. You got it or not? All the population figures during the conducting of election of President of India has been taken from the census of 1971, not 2011. Remember this year, 1971 census. 1971 census. Okay, so you assume that this population is taking from 1971 census. Okay, not 2011 census. So let's go further. If UP has population of 1 crore and assume that UP has total number of MLAs is 100. Okay, so what you have to do is just divide the whole things, total population by total number of MLAs. So it will be 00 has been cut down. So what is the left behind it? The whole thing left behind it. Okay, 1 lakh. Fine. Now 1 lakh has been come after dividing the population from total number of MLAs of UP. After doing that, what you have to do is you have to divide the whole outcome by 1000 again. This number is fixed, this number is always fixed. Okay, this population is not fixed. Okay, this is 1971. Fine, and this is for all the states. The population which is measured on the basis of 1971 will be for all the states. This will be different, may be different for other states. Suppose UP have 100 MLAs, Bihar have little bit less MLAs. Okay, Rajasthan have some other kinds of numbers of MLAs. So this kind of possibility may be. So this number will be flexible for all the states. Even this number will be flexible for all the states, because all the states of India possible that may not have the same kind of population. Okay, same quantity of population. So these two numbers will be flexible, may be flexible. But after dividing the population by total number of MLAs of any particular state, that outcome has to be divided by 1000, and that will be the same. This 1000 will be the same for all the states. Okay, so after dividing it, what is left? It just left 100 left. So now the voting count of one MLA is 100. Voting count of one MLA is 100. Are you getting it or not? Actually, I am not live, so I can't interact you right now, but you have any kind of problem, then please contact to our team. But I am making you sure that I am just keeping it so slowly that you will easily get all the points. After the completion of whole thing, I will give a summary in 2 to 3 minutes of all. If you not get the whole things, you can resume that video 1 or 2 times. I am sure that you will get all your doubts. Okay, clear. So at last, voting count of one MLA of UP has come out to 100. Now what is the total number of MLAs in UP? Tell me. I have assumed 100. So since voting count of one MLA of UP is 100, so voting count of 100 MLAs of UP is 100 into 100. That will be what? 10,000. So all the voting counts for all the MLAs of UP is 10,000. Have you got it? Have you got it? All the voting count, the final figures is 10,000 for all the MLAs of a state assembly of UP. So by doing the same process for all the states and the union territories of Delhi and Puducherry, the final outcome may be anything. Fine. So suppose the final outcome is, I am just taking a figure. Suppose the final outcome is 10 lakhs. Okay, just assuming, suppose if this is for UP, the voting count of all MLAs of legislative assemblies of UP, then assume that by doing the same process for all the states of India, our final outcome, the final voting count outcome of all the MLAs of all the legislative assemblies, including legislative assembly of Delhi and Puducherry, will be what? It's 10 lakhs. Fine, it's 10 lakh. Have you got it? Just assuming figure it is. So now I am going ahead. Till now we have got, and you know that how the voting count of MLAs has been done. Now going ahead, and I will tell you that how the voting count of MP has been done, member of parliament. So can I erase it, friends? Can I erase it? Not? Okay, fine. So I hope this is visible to all of you. This is 10 lakh. This is 10 lakhs. Okay, this figure is 10 lakhs. Suppose because of understanding properly each and every topic, each and every point of this procedure, I am taking just simple numbers so you can get easily all the points. So suppose total number of MPs in Lok Sabha is 350. Suppose it is far more than 350 in reality, but it's 350 assume, and total number of MPs in Rajya Sabha is 150. So by including both of them, we will get how much? 500. Is it or not? But remember one thing, that the nominated members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will not participate in the elections of President of India. They will not participate. Who will nominate the members of MPs? That is President. President nominate some persons, some candidates as the nominated members of Lok Sabha and even for Rajya Sabha. So by excluding those nominated members, if there is 350 MPs in Lok Sabha and if 150 MPs in Rajya Sabha, then by adding both the MPs we are getting 500. So we will divide the whole voting count of all the MLAs of India by the total number of MPs, that is 500. That is Lok Sabha plus Rajya Sabha MPs, excluding nominated members. I am not taking here by adding nominated members because they cannot participate in the election of president. I am repeating all the things again and again because you can get easily all of the points. Okay, so if I am little bit slow about taking it, please forgive me. Fine. So now we will divide it. So after dividing, what outcome will come? It's 2000. So voting count of one MP is 2000. If I am not wrong in calculation, so it will be 2000. I am just checking again. Yeah, sure. So it is 2000 for one MP. Have you got it? The voting count of one MLA has been counted by this method. Now voting count has been done for one MP has been done by this method. I am repeating it again. The whole voting count of all the MLAs divided by total number of MPs in India by excluding nominated members, that outcome will give the result of voting count of one MP of Parliament. That is 2000 by our assumption figure. Okay. So how many members? MPs? 500. So what is the voting count of 500 MPs? So we will multiply 2000 by 500. So what will the outcome? Okay. So this is the outcome actually. Fine. Okay, this is correct. It's 10 lakhs. Fine. So 10 lakhs is the voting count for all the MPs of India, and 10 lakh also is the voting count of all the MLAs of India. Actually both are similar. This is a coincidence. This is not happen in reality. This may happen, but only this is a coincidence. Okay. So don't confuse it that the voting count of all MLAs of India will be equal to voting count of all the MPs of India. This is only a coincidence. Okay, this may happen or this may not happen. It will just depend on the figures and facts. So here 10,000 is the voting count of all the MLAs of India. 10 lakhs, and 10 lakhs is the voting count for all the MPs of India. Have you got it? So what is the total number of vote counts for including MLAs and MPs of India? It's 20 lakh. Am I right or wrong? It's 20 lakh or not? It's 20 lakh, na? So that will be a figure of 20 lakhs. Okay. 20 lakhs figure. It's 20 lakhs. I hope all of you get it. This will be visible to all of you. See, students, I am repeating the whole things again in just 1 minute. Please be attentive because I am going to erase it. Okay. So just see it. I am taking a particular state, that is UP, and I am assuming that by the 1971 census, because it is the fixed date by which census the population has been taken. So I assume that the population of UP has 1 crore and all the MLAs of members of legislative assemblies of UP is 100. So we have divided 1 crore by 100. Okay. So after dividing that we get 1 lakhs, and after that division we have to divide at anyhow by 1000. This is 1000 fixed number. 1000 will be the fixed number. This is will for the any states, not for MP. This is only for state. If any states, we will regard even for it is taken off for Maharashtra, Delhi, Bihar, Uttarakhand, anything. So that number will be same. This may flexible, this may flexible. So after dividing it, what we have gone that we have got 100. So 100 voting count is for 1 MLA. So there is 100 MLAs for UP. So the voting count of the whole MLAs of UP is 10,000. Now we have assumed that since voting count of all MLAs of UP is 10,000, then it may possible that, just assume that it may possible that the voting count of all the MLAs of all the states by doing the same process is 10 lakhs. Okay, so 10 lakhs is the final count of voting count of all the MLAs of India, all the MLAs of all the states of India. So after that we have to find out the voting count of all the MPs. So first of all we have to find out voting count of one MP. Okay, so what we will do that we have supposed that it's 350 members of Lok Sabha and 150 members of Rajya Sabha, so that will be 500, and we have not included nominated members in that list. So we will divide the whole voting count of all the MLAs of all the states of India by total number of MPs. Okay, so after division we have get 2000. Okay, so 2000 is the voting count of one MP of India. So what is the total number of MPs of India? What we have assumed, not in reality, that is 500. So we will multiply 500 into 2000 by 2000 for calculation of the final outcome of voting count of all the MPs of India. So the final outcome is 10 lakhs. Okay, so here is also 10 lakhs, and by coincidence this is also 10 lakhs. Okay, generally it is different, not the same, but since it is a coincidence, so here is the result having taken. Okay, so final outcome for all the MLAs and all the MPs of India is 10 lakhs for MLAs and 10 lakhs for even for MPs. So that is 20 lakhs. I hope till here you have cleared about all the points. Can I erase it right now? Okay, I am erasing it. Actually this process is so complicated that by assuming the right figures you will be get confused. You will understand, but after few times you will be forget about all the things. Okay, that's why I have taken the simple numbers, and by coincidence both the voting count of MLAs and MPs have come the same. This also shows that all the persons of India are equal. Okay students, I am just taking fun about it. So right now we have seen that total voting count is 20 lakhs. Fine. Now since 20 lakhs is a large number, if we are going to divide 20 lakhs by again and again, so this the whole board will be fulfilled by only dividing it. So let's assume, you assumed in maths classes now that let's it be x 100 anything. So let's assume that the final outcome is 20 lakhs, but we have to assume here that is only 50. That is 50. Why I am doing that? Because you have to understand it. Okay, you are not going to conduct the election of parliament, sorry, president. If you will do that, that will be a very virtuous and important day for you. But right now you have to only got these points. Okay, so suppose the final outcome is 20 lakhs for all the voting counts of all the MLAs and MPs of India, but since it is a large number, we are equaling 20 lakhs by 50 equal to 50. Now we will assume that all the voting counts of all the MLAs and all the MPs of India, including all the MLAs of Delhi and Puducherry and excluding the members of nominated members of parliament, is 20 lakhs, and now I am assuming it 50. 20 lakhs equal to 50. I am just assuming it. Don't show the video like sir has made 20 lakhs equal to 50. Please don't do it. Okay, so I am just assuming it. Now see what is the further procedure. Let's suppose that there are 4 candidates contesting the election of president. Fine, that 4 candidates, I hope that time is not consuming more. Fine. So if there are 4 candidates, that is A, B, C and D. Okay. By doing this, first of all, understand one extra thing, that unlike what we have to do in the elections of other candidates, during elections of even MPs for MLAs, or even elections for municipals and panchayat elections, we have to give only one vote, we have to cast only one vote. Okay. But unlike that, during the election of president, all the candidates have to give the preference, give the choice, that my first preference for president is this one, or either this one, and the second preference is this one, third preference is this one, anyhow. But one extra things, remember that you can, it is depend upon you that you can give only one preference, but generally it is not done by any MLAs and MPs. Okay, but it is law that you can mention only one preference. You have the right to not mention the three preference. You have the right it, but generally it is not done by MLAs and MPs. Okay, but you cannot do like that. You will give the preference from preference number 2. You have to give the preference, at least preference number 1 it is necessary. The remaining thing depends upon you, that you will giving the preference number 2, 3, 4 or not. But it is necessary that you will have to give the preference number 1. Otherwise you can't do that you have given this preference number directly 2, 3 and 4 and you have not given the preference number 1. You can't do that. Okay. So I hope you got this point. Fine. So now let's see. If out of total, so again let's see, what is the majority vote count to become a president of India? If, listen my words carefully in just 2 minutes. See, during the elections of member of parliament, if any candidate win the maximum number of votes, either that is less than 50% or more than 50%, that doesn't matter at all. Even a candidate wins only 30% of vote shares, he can win the election if he has secured most number of votes in the remaining elections, like elections of panchayat, municipals, even elections for MLAs, elections for MPs. This is the procedure. Not necessary that you have to earn more than 50% of votes. But unlike that, the President of India, the candidate, will secure that win only after getting more than 50%. So any candidate, if he wants to win the elections of president, so he will have to secure at least total number of vote counts divided by 2 plus 1. That here it is 26 by according to our figures. So if in total number of vote counts divided by 2 plus 1, so if any contestant win the election of president according to our examples, then he have to secure at least 26 voting counts. Fine. I hope till now all the points have been clear to you. Can I move ahead? This is the final procedure. So can I move ahead, students? So I hope I can move ahead and I should finish all these things. Fine. So let's see. 4 candidates A, B, C and D. Total vote count is 50. Majority is 26. So if any contestant win 25 voting count and the remaining candidates win less than 25 voting counts, even that candidate who has won 25 voting counts will not be termed as the President of India because he has not got the majority of India. Fine. So what is the procedure to follow it? See, suppose out of 50 voting count, if A has got 10 voting count, okay, suppose if A has gone 10 voting points, it means for A, 10 voting counts has been mentioned as the first preference. The person, the MLAs, the MPs, means whatever I am taking here regard of person, because the person, you will understand here, the person equivalent to MLAs, MPs. Okay, fine. So the person who has given their first preference to A is somewhat figures, and that figures in form of voting count is 10. Are you getting it or not? If the persons here as MLAs and MPs, so the person, don't confuse in person. Persons means here is MLAs and MPs. So if the persons has given their preference number A as the first preference, and that number of MLAs and MPs when done in the form of voting count, then 10 voting count has been given to person A, candidate A, as the first preference. If B has got 20, suppose if B has got 20 and B has got 20 voting count in first preference, okay, the persons, the MLAs and MPs have given 20 voting counts as their first preference to candidate B. And suppose if C got the same kind of process as 15 and D got as 5, the total is 50 or not? 10, 12, 30 and it is 20, so it is 50. That is set all right. So be careful about that. This is the final procedure, and this is somewhat complex, but I will make short easily that you will get it. Okay, so if the first preference for those persons who has given the candidate A as their first preference is 10, first preference for B is 20, first preference for C is 15, and first preference for D is 5. I hope all the things is visible to all of you. Now what you have to do is, the candidate who secured the, if by doing it, first of all, the see that has any candidate got the majority voting count or not. If got, then the matter is okay, he has win. Further procedure will not be conducted. Okay, but here you can see that nobody is going to win the election, because majority mark is 26 and maximum voting count here B, you can see that B got 20. So till now neither B won, neither C nor A, and D never win. D can't win at all. D will not win at all. Okay, when you will calculating this procedure by separating numbers by separate numbers again and again, you can find always that the candidates who got the least number of voting as their first preference will never win, can never win the election. That is why the candidate who got the least number of voting count as the first preference will be eliminated from that contestant. So here D will be eliminated. D is eliminated from this competition. Okay, this procedure. So see, if I am assuming that this, see, don't take this kind of that only 5 MLAs in all MLAs, all MPs including only 5% has given the vote to D. Not, this is a voting count, this is not MLAs, this is not number of MLAs or MPs, this is voting count. Because it is so a simple figure that you may sometimes feel that this is number of MLAs. No, this is a voting count. Number of MLAs and MPs is always less than voting count. Have you got it? The number of MLAs in UP is 100, but the voting count of one MLA is 100, and voting count of all MLAs, that is 100 in UP, has gone to 10,000. So voting count will always be bigger than number of MLAs. But since we have to done a simple calculation, that is why we have taken a simple figure. So this is a voting count. So suppose 10 persons whose first preference is 5 is candidate number, sorry, D, whose first preference is candidate number D. Is it possible? Or let's assume it's 5. Okay, so that is simple. Any number of, suppose any number of persons who has done their first preference as D. Okay, since D is eliminated now, so all the persons, all the MLAs and MPs who are first preference is candidate D has been removed from their first preference. All the MLAs and all the MPs who have chosen their first preference for candidate D, there all the first preference will be eliminated because candidate itself eliminated from the round, from the further procedure. So all the candidates who have given the first preference as D, their first preference has been eliminated, and their whatever they have given their second preference is termed as their first preference. All the persons, all the MLAs and MPs who have given their first preference as D, and since D has been eliminated from the further procedure, so the first preference will be removed from those persons list who has given their first preference to D. So the second preference, all those persons whose second preference will be termed as their first preference after elimination of D. So it may possible that their second preference is different. Suppose 5 persons have given to vote for first preference as D. So it may possible not that out of 5 persons, 1 person has given, hear my words carefully, it is possible that 5 persons have given their first preference as candidate D. So it may possible that out of 5 persons, 1 person has given their second preference to candidate A, and the third person who has given their first preference to candidate D has given the second preference to candidate C and candidate B. It is possible, na? So it is possible that all those persons who has given their first preference as candidate D, their second preference will be different. Okay, it may be different, and since all their second preference is now termed as their first preference, C, candidate is eliminated from the contestant. Now 5 voting count, out of 5 voting count, if the 5 voting count, now if the second preference, out of this 5 voting counts, since this 5 voting counts have been eliminated, so this 5 will be transferred to any of them definitely, because someone second preference will be this, someone will be this, someone will be this. Persons who has given their first preference as D, some of them has given their second preference as A, second preference as B, and second preference C. It is possible. So these 5s will not going transfer to any single particular candidate, but instead of that, these 5 voting counts will be transferred to any of them. Okay, so suppose out of 5, if this person is got 3, this person is got 1, and this person is got 1. So now final outcome is 13, 21, and it is 16. Have you got it or not? Have you got it or not? That since D is eliminated, I am just repeating it, since D is eliminated, so all the persons whose first preference is candidate D, their first preference has been deemed, finished, redeemed, finished, their first preference has been finished. All those one who has given their first preference as D, since D is eliminated, so all those persons whose first preference is candidate D, their first preference has been redeemed, removed, and their second preference will be termed as now first preference. So it is possible that some of them have given their second preference as A, and some of them B, some of C. It is possible. So the total voting count for D is 5. So where will be this 5 will be transferred. So this 5 will be transferred. We have to transfer it. That is why we have to eliminate it, because only after transferring it, anyone will get the majority. So if out of the 5 voting count, suppose candidate A has now got 3 out of 5 voting count and B and C got 1. So now A got 13, B got 21 and C got 16. Again now, till now anyone did not get the majority to win the election of president. So now what? Just follow the simple procedure. Out of 3, who has secured the least number of voting count? That is A. So now A will be eliminated. A will be eliminated too. So now the contestant is between 21 and 16, that is B and C. Okay. So the procedure will be same as like D eliminated and their voting count has been distributed to this one as the second preference. So now follow, I am repeating it again like D. Suppose originally 10 voting count has been given as the first preference to A. Now since A got 3 voting count for the second preference, and because those second preference has comes to first preference, because those who have given their second preference to A has given the first preference to D. So since D has eliminated, so the second preference has become the first preference and the second preference has become the first preference. So those first preference has been included in A, because all those persons who has given their first preference to D, their second preference, some of them, the 3 of them, 3 voting count of them has their mentioned their second preference as A. Okay. So now we will assume that A got 13 first preference choice. A got 13 first preference choice. Now since A is eliminated because he has secured the least number of voting count from the remaining 3 candidates, so this voting count will be transferred. All the persons, all the MLAs and MPs who has given their first preference as A has given their second, third, fourth preference to. So all the persons, all the MLAs and MPs who has given their first preference as A, now their first preference has been redeemed like D. Now what was their second preference will be termed as first preference. Okay. So we have to distribute that voting count. So out of 13, okay, out of 13 voting count, if he has got 12 and he has got only 1, okay, if he has got 12 and he has got only 1, fine. I mean to say that since A has got 13, after eliminating D, since A has got 13 first preference choice, and because A has got the least number of voting counts in these 3 candidates, so A will be eliminated. So all those MLAs and MPs who has given their first preference to A has given their second preference to. So since A is eliminated from the contestant, that is why all the persons, all the MLAs and MPs who has given their first preference to A, their first preference was also eliminated and their second preference will be termed as their first preference. Okay. If it is confusing to you, you can ask me personally, individually. I am making sure that I will clear all the doubts. It is possible that it may going to be confused somewhat. It is possible. But what you have to do, that when you will live alone, you will sit alone, you can doing that rounding figures by yourself and you will get the result. Okay. So now out of these 13 voting counts, 12 of voting counts have given their second choice to C, and 1 of the voting counts has given their second choice to B. The persons who has given their first preference to A has given their second preference to B, only 1, and given their second preference to C is a large number, that is 12. So the final voting count is, that is 22, and here is 28. So let's see, have anyone crossed the mark or not? If till now anyone not get the majority, then automatically their voting count has been, this one is eliminated and their voting count has been distributed to this one, so this will automatically win the election. Okay, fine. So actually that not happens at all, that never happens, I think, in the history of our Constitution of India in the election of President of India. Okay, so what you have seen that the person who is number 2 in the initial phase have actually win the election by a good number of margin. Okay, so I hope all of you have got it clearly. If any kind of doubts remaining to you, please contact to our team. Our team will assist you. Even I can personally assist you. Email ID, Telegram channel link. Many of you are asking your doubts regularly. Almost I am really wonderful to seeing that yesterday, that is Sunday, even that is Sunday, almost more than 40 doubts have been come. More than 40 students have asked their doubts, and our teams are more than happy to assist them. I personally assist yesterday almost 12 to 15 students. Okay, so all things are going in a regular phase, in a regular manner. So now I hope all the things have been clear to you. So can I move ahead in president topic? So I am moving. Okay, thank you students, I am moving. I hope I am able to clear your doubts about the whole election procedure of president in the whole life. If anyone tells you to tell, understand the procedure of election of president, I hope all of you can easily tell that one. Okay, so now let's see the powers and functions of the president. Fine, the powers and functions of the president. See, president has so much powers that in reality no one recognizes that actually. But president has so much powers. He is the protector, preserver and defender of the Constitution of India. What power he can get more? He is the protector, preserver and defender of the Constitution of India. Not custodian. Custodian is Supreme Court of India. Custodian of Constitution of India is Supreme Court of India. Fine. One thing I want to tell you, please remember the fact that I have told you the day before start date 2, but I am just repeating it and adding one extra point, that nominal head of the state is, nominal head of the state is, have you got it? Nominal head of the state is president. Even a question will come that who is the state of India? Okay, who is the head of a state of India? This is nominal head of a state of India is president. And if only head of a state of India will be asked, even that will be president. But if question will come that who is the real head of the state, real head of the state is prime minister. Head of the state is president. Nominal head of the state is president. Real head of the state is prime minister. Have you got it? And head of the government is, automatically it is prime minister. Fine. So nominal head of the state and even head of the state is president. Real head of the state and head of the government is Prime Minister of India. So I hope I have cleared all your doubts. And see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are the seven important powers and functions of the President of India. These are the most important powers and functions of President of India. I will tell all the powers and functions one by one, but I will cover it in next class. But before, one extra thing, the veto powers of President I will cover today. Okay, so next slide, I am waiting for it. That is veto power of President of India. Fine. Veto power is President of India. In India, President has three kinds of veto power. What is veto power? When I will teach about the bills, the budgets, about Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, then you will see there in that lecture that there is constitutional amendment bill, ordinary bills, money bills. There are so many kinds of bills present in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and further they became law after final assent of and final okay of President of India. Okay, so that is a separate matter. So veto is means you can a special kind of power. Have you heard veto power in UN Security Council, that out of the whole members of the UN Security Council, even the whole country is agree on any terms, and even one single country of out of them is not agree on that term, then that resolution will not be passed by UN Security Council, UNSC. That is veto power. Every member of UNSC, United Nations Security Councils, has veto power. That is veto power. So it's so powerful veto power. Okay, that even all the members are agree except one, even though that resolution will not going to be passed, because each and every members of UN Security Council has veto power. So have you got it about the veto power? So now let's see. President of India has 3 kinds of veto power, and President of USA has 4 kinds of veto power. One extra veto power I will tell you in the same session. Okay, I will tell you because it may happen that because elections of President of America has been conducted recently, it may be asked either in any of the exams of UPSC. Okay, in any sections. So let's see about, first of all, about veto power of the President of India. Here is India. Fine. So let's see absolute veto. What is absolute veto? Absolute veto means if any ordinary bills has been passed, from the parliament as had been sent, if any ordinary bills, I am taking about just ordinary bills. What is ordinary bill? What is constitutional amendment bill? I will take a separate session on the bill. Okay, so please remember ordinary bill. You can remember it easily. Ordinary bill, only ordinary bills. Okay, if ordinary bill has been passed from the Parliament of India by majority, passed. Okay, or if only majority will be present, only passed. So if ordinary bill has been passed from the Parliament of India as had been sent to the President for their assent means approval. If that ordinary bill after passing from the Parliament has been sent to the approval of President, the assent of President, okay, and President has rejected, said no, I am not giving approval to this bill. Okay, so when President will use this kind of power, this kind of veto power, then that veto power is termed as absolute veto power. Have you got it? I hope all of you are getting about this point, that when any bill passed by the, any bill means ordinary bill, not money bill and constitutional amendment bill. If that ordinary bill has been passed from, the Parliament itself and sent to the approval assent of President of India, if President of India has not given the approval and rejected, did not give his approval and said no, I am not going to give approval, okay, because of any reason, so that power of President will be termed as absolute veto. Fine. President can, there are 3 to 4 options actually President has. First option is either President will give approval, give his assent, or either President will reject. In this situation, these 2 conditions is simple. Or it is possible that President will say that after sending it, President will say that looks, some part of this bill should be reconsidered again. So President may send that bill again to the Parliament for the reconsideration. reconsideration of the bill, even for the whole bill or for the some part of the bill. President can send that bill to the parliament again for the reconsideration of bill. So here are the three possibilities. Have you got it? That President of India can give his assent, give his approval, or can reject, means did not give his approval, or can send to the reconsideration that please reconsider on this bill again and send this bill to the parliament again. The fourth option is that he can withhold that bill as much time as he want. Nobody is going to stop him. I will give an example about this one. President can neither give approval, neither reject, neither send the bill for the reconsideration. Instead of that, President can withhold a bill with himself or herself and just keeping silent and keep aside of that bill. Okay, there is no time limit on it. So here there are the four options President have. First option is can give approval, second option is can reject it, third option he can send it for reconsideration to the parliament again, fourth one is that he can withhold that ordinary bill to himself or herself, and there is no time bonding for President to take action, either reject, give or consideration. Okay, so there is no time bonding on President. So these are the four options President actually has in reality. Okay, so what I have told you about absolute veto is somewhat in where he will reject the ordinary bill and he will say that no, I am not going to give the assent. Second is suspensive veto. Suspensive veto is somewhat different. If he will give the assent, then what is the power he is using? He is using nothing. He is just giving formality that any bill has been passed from the parliament, and after passing from the parliament, okay, it is going to the president and president has given the approval, okay, to the bill, and that bill become a law. So by doing this procedure, there is no power used by the president. In simple way, after passing from the parliament, president is just signing on it and got his confirmation, that becomes a law. So if he will give, then there is no veto power used. Okay, there is no veto power used. He will reject, absolute veto power is used. But if he will send to the reconsideration, that is suspensive veto. Means if any bill, any ordinary bill, if I am taking here bill, then please understand ordinary bill, not the Constitutional Amendment Act, sorry, not the Constitutional Amendment Bill and not the money bill, not taking the regard of money bill. Earlier it was for Constitutional Amendment Bill too, but after 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, after 24th Constitutional Amendment Act 1971, this has been removed to President has to give his assent to, has to give his approval. If any constitutional amendment bill has been passed from the parliament, there is no option present to the President of India. President of India can't use veto powers, any of the veto powers in either constitutional amendment bill and money bill. Okay, he has to give or she has to give his assent at any cost in both these bills. And this was present from the earlier, but this one constitutional amendment bill was done because President has to give his assent at any cost to the constitutional amendment bill passed by the parliament, and that is done by 24th Constitutional Amendment Act 1971. Otherwise, earlier it was also come under veto power of like ordinary bill. Okay. What is that? If I hope that all of you are getting it. Is it visible to you? If not, then I am repeating in just 1 minute. Okay. I just want to understand and tell you each and everything in a very, very clear manner. 10 minutes extra you have in your life. If I have in my life to give 10 minutes extra to all of you, then why not to you? Okay. So absolute means President has rejected, did not give his assent. This is about absolute veto. But this is only for ordinary bills. Not only this, even veto power of the president will only work in the ordinary bill, not in the money bill and constitutional amendment bill. I am writing here, veto power of the president will come in action only in ordinary bills, not for constitutional amendment bill and money bill. Okay, veto power of the president, any of the three veto power of the president will come in action, will come in force. Okay, president can use any of the three veto powers only in the ordinary bills, President cannot use any of the veto powers in constitutional amendment bill or money bill, because see, money bill came in parliament only after the prior recommendation to the president. Money bill has been come to the parliament at any time. Whenever money bill comes to the floor of parliament, before coming to the parliament, recommendation and prior approval of the president has been taken already. Okay, it should be taken already. It is the law. So since president has given his approval to the money bill earlier, before it comes to the parliament, that is why money bill will not come under absolute or suspensive or pocket veto, any of the three veto. But constitutional amendment bill comes under the power of veto. But after doing 24th Constitutional Amendment Act 1971, 24th Constitutional Amendment Act 1971, this power has been taken away from the president for the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2. Now only for ordinary bills, president can use any of the three veto. Have you got it? So I have told you about absolute veto, that is president will not give his approval and reject the bill. Okay, so that is absolute veto. Now comes to the suspensive veto, and after that pocket veto, and after that another veto that the president of USA has, that is qualified veto, terms as qualified veto. Okay, so let's see suspensive veto. See, suspensive veto is somewhat like, hear my words clearly, if any ordinary bills has been passed from both the houses of the parliament and sent to the approval or assent of the president, and president send it again to the parliament for the reconsideration to the bill, and after sending it to the parliament for the reconsideration of the bill, and again if parliament again passes that bill with the same majority, same kind of majority, not the special majority, ordinary bills need to be passed from the parliament by simple majority, not by any special kind of majority. Okay, so if any ordinary bills has been passed from both the houses of the parliament, after passing that, it is necessary to send that bill to the President of India for the approval of President of India. But if President of India send it back to the parliament for the reconsideration of the bill, okay, then if parliament again passed that bill again from both the houses and sent it to the president, then president has to give his assent at any cost. President has to give it assent at any cost if that bill was passed from both the houses after reconsidering it. Either the parliament has changed in that bill according to president or not. Okay, if second times that bill has been passed from both houses of the parliament after sending it to the reconsideration, then when the next time will, second time will, that ordinary will go to the President of India. President of India has give his assent, that his give has to approval at any cost, at any how. But suspensive veto is what? That President can send the bills for the reconsideration, okay, for the reconsideration and send it back to the Parliament. So the power of sending the ordinary bills for the reconsidering it back to the Parliament is termed as suspensive veto. Fine. I hope suspensive veto is clear to all of you. So absolute veto, suspensive veto is clear. So now comes to the third veto, that is pocket veto. This is a special kind of veto. See, if any bills after passing from, that is ordinary bill, after passing from both the houses of the Parliament and send it to the President of India, then President can hold that bill, to himself or herself for any time. There is no time bounding. Okay, so I am giving an example through which you will get it. In 1986, during the resign of Prime Ministership of Rajiv Gandhi, one amendment bill has been passed. That is Indian Post Office Amendment Bill. Indian Post Office Amendment Bill. Okay. Before becoming any bill to law, if till whenever President has not give approval to any of the bill, that bill will not be termed as act. Only after getting approval from the President, that will be termed as act. So I am not saying here that Indian Post Office Amendment Act, because whenever it was not give his assent by the President, that will be termed as only bill. So during 1986, one amendment has been passed from the Parliament, that is Indian Post Office Amendment Bill. Okay, but because there was a huge protest against that bill, so President at that time, Mr. Gyani Jain Singh, what he has done, that he has hold that Indian Post Office Amendment Bill 1986 to himself. Okay, hold that bill and done nothing, neither give his assent, neither rejected, neither sent for the reconsideration at all. Okay, so he has hold his bill at himself, and he has hold for 3 years, almost 3 to 4 years. Okay, and after that story is different, that bill has not become act. Okay, because the government has fallen. Okay, the National Front government has become in power after 1988. In 1989, National Front has formed their government. That's why this bill not become an act. So see here, this power, President has hold that bill to himself without giving, rejecting or for reconsidering, holding that bill to himself for 3 to 3.5 years. See that power. There is no time bounding mentioned in the Constitution that in which time President has to take action on that bill, either give assent, reject, reconsideration. There is no time bounding for President, okay, to take the action on that bill. But in USA, there is a time bounding, that is 10 days. If Cabinet and Senate of USA, Senate Congress of USA has passed any bill, then President of USA has to take action on that bill within 10 days. But in India, there is no time bounding. Okay, remember that. One extra, if any other slide remaining, I want to see. Is it absolute veto withholding money of assent to the bill? I have cleared it. Next slide. I have cleared it. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, comparison in veto power and of President in legislature and versus Parliament. I will cover it in 2 minutes, but just look at it. Will take 2 to 3 minutes, but I will take qualified veto that not present in India, but that is present in USA. So please look into it. Qualified veto that may come in exam. Okay, it may possible. I am not saying that. It may possible that question may come. You don't know whatever they come. Okay, so during lecture of suspensive veto, right now I have told you that president has the power to send that bill for the reconsideration. Okay, in USA, if the bill has been passed and sent to the approval of president, if president send it back to the parliament for reconsidering that bill, for the reconsideration of that bill, like in India, then what happened in India, that after passing the same bill and send it back to the president, then president has to give his assent, but passing from the same majority, from the simple majority again. Okay, but in USA, if any bill has been passed by the parliament and sent to the president, and president send it back for the reconsideration of that bill, then this time parliament has to pass that bill with a special majority, a much higher majority, with a much higher majority than earlier it was passed. That is only a separate thing from suspensive veto. That is termed as qualified veto, not present in India but present in USA. Okay, now text about comparison in veto power of president. Veto power of president, you got it? In a state, in a state legislature versus parliament. See, in 3 to 4 minutes I will clear this whole thing. Okay, what can be done at the central level? You got it? Veto power. For listen my words carefully. If any state means not I am taking here about India. If this is anyone, Maharashtra, UP, Uttarakhand, Bihar, someone, anyone, Delhi either. So if any state has passed any bill from their legislative assemblies, after passing it, they sent it to the governor of that state. Okay, if any state, suppose let's legislative assembly of Uttarakhand has passed any bill, okay, has passed an ordinary bill and sent it, and after passing it sent it to the governor for their approval, just like president, then governor has the power, either he may give his approval to the governor, can give his approval or either reject. Okay, he can give his approval, either reject, okay, or either send for the reconsideration to, or the fourth option is that governor cannot hold that bill for as much as he long wants, like president, that is pocket veto. No, either governor can reject or give approval or can send it back to the reconsideration again. But the fourth option governor has, that governor can send that bill to the president of India. If any ordinary bill that has been passed from, that has been constitutional amendment will not be passed by legislative assembly, that will only pass by parliament. So only 2 bills remaining in the main sub headlines, that is ordinary bill and money bill. Money bill will be introduced, okay, after recommendation, prior recommendation. But in ordinary bill, whenever ordinary bill will be passed by the parliament and governor thought and adopted the fourth option that it should be sent to the president, then if governor sent it to the president, and president can use absolute veto, suspensive veto. Okay, absolute veto, suspensive, any kind of veto he can use. But if president has returned, president again returned that bill for the reconsideration, suppose if rejected, then finished. If give approval, becomes law for that respective state. But if he will actually not hold in that one, okay, he can send it to the reconsideration. He cannot hold. Why he cannot hold? You will understand right now. There is no need to hold like holding in the bills of parliament. There is no need to hold that bill, because if president has sent back that bill for the reconsideration like parliament, and again if that legislative assembly has passed again that bill like parliament, okay, with the same simple majority, then again governor will send back to this to the president. Then after sending it, it is not confirmed that president will give his assent. What happens during parliament? That after sending reconsidering the bills, after passing the second time, at any cost, president have to give his approval. But here in a state legislative, what happened that after sending it back to the for the reconsideration, again after passing it the second time, again sending it to the president through the governor, then again it is the president of India has the power to reject it, or even reject it while we are again reconsidering it. He will directly reject it. So there is no need of any pocket veto. There is no need of any pocket veto, no, because if in the same kind of power has been given in the ordinary bills for the suspensive veto, that even if the parliament will pass the same bill again at the second time after reconsidering it, then it may possible that president can reject again. Okay, so if that power was also present to the president in terms of parliament bills, then also there was no need of pocket veto at the central level too. Fine. So because there is no need of pocket veto here, because he can even reject the second time after reconsidering it, sent back to the president can reject it. Okay, I hope all of you get it clearly. Fine, all of you have get it clearly. So if any other slides remaining, please. Yes, DPSP question. I think it's a 5 DPSP question I have given you yesterday, and I will solve it one by one, all the 5 questions. All of you, many of you are solving it and asking their doubts. Okay, so I hope all of you have solved it and asked your doubts. So it is my duty to resolve all the issues. So I am taking it here. First question, that which of the following is fundamental in the governance of the country? The first sentence I have given in that lecture is directive principle of a state policy. DPSP, directive principle of a state policy, is the fundamentals in the governance of the country, in the governance of the nation. So it is automatically DPSP. DPSP is the fundamental. Government will make any law, he will try to do not violate DPSP, because it's made on any public opinion. It's DPSP is all about public welfare, societal welfare. So any government wants to make any law with not violating DPSP. Fine. Now second question, please. Select the correct assessment about DPSP. It is enforceable by the courts. Not at all. Fundamental rights is enforceable. Not even fundamental duty, and not even DPSP is enforceable by the courts. It is added later in the Indian Constitution. Not at all. It is present since the origin of the Constitution. Article 32 comes under DPSP. Not. Article 32 comes under fundamental rights, that is constitutional remedies, habeas corpus, mandamus, certiorari, prohibition and quo warranto. Okay, and D, it is not enforceable by the courts. Yeah, that is correct. DPSP is not enforceable by the correct courts, and even fundamental duty is not enforceable by the courts, but fundamental right is enforceable and justiciable. Okay. Third question is DPSP mentions in which part of the Indian Constitution? It is simple one, but please remember this kind of facts. Okay, so this is comes under part 4 of the Constitution. Part 4A is about fundamental duty. Okay, part 4 36 to 51 article number DPSP fundamental duty, article 51A, article 51A. Okay, part 4A DPSP article 36 to 51, part 4, part 3 that is fundamental right 12 to article number 12 to 35 fundamental rights. It is about fundamental duty, and it is about DPSP. And part 5 I am taking the class right now, that is 52 to 78. I am just taking it right now till 78. That is about union executive. Part 5 union executive. Fine, so the correct answer will be option B. Next question, I have to raise it so you can get it. Indian Constitution has taken the concept of DPSP from which of the following nation? The Constitution of Ireland, Irish Constitution. I have told you about it. So this is a simple one, but please remember this fact. This question can be asked, generally asked in the UPSC, this kind of question, 1 or 2 questions. So next question, please. Who said that DPSP is the conscience of Indian Constitution? Either Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, John Adams, Granville Austin, or Thomas Jefferson. Who said that? Either it is Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar? No, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar did not say it. Okay, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar said that DPSP is the noble features of the Constitution of India, noble features. But it conscience of Indian Constitution, DPSP is the conscience of Indian Constitution. It is said by Granville Austin. Okay, it is an historian, American historian. Okay, so answer is C, Granville Austin. Any other question? I hope so not. Okay, students. So I hope today's session is much more interesting. I hope all of you have got all the points. So further session will be about president, that 6 to 7 powers and functions of the president. I have told you that I have not covered till now. I will cover in upcoming classes. So thank you, students.